I broke into an alpha's cabin by accident. Okay, broke is dramatic. The door was emotionally open. It sighed when I pushed, the way people do when they're already tired of your nonsense. I slipped inside with a backpack, a bruised rib, and a wolf that still hadn't decided if she liked me. If you think fate can be petty enough to put a pregnant omega in the path of a territorial alpha, tap subscribe in your heart and keep listening. I'm Savannah Quinn, 24, waitress by necessity, survivor by hobby, omega by inconvenient genetics, and, this part's new, 2 months pregnant by a man who doesn't deserve a name anymore. I only needed one night of roof and silence, one night without footsteps in the hall or the slick smell of silver oil, one night where the world didn't feel like a trap with my body as bait. Chapter 1. The cabin smelled like cedar and rain and peppery coffee grounds. It was clean in that effortless way men pretend is magic. No dishes, no clutter, boots lined like soldiers by the door. There was a wool blanket tossed over a leather chair, a cast-iron skillet seasoning on the stove, and a fire already laid in the hearth as if the owner believed in arrivals. I believed in exits. I locked the door, wedged a chair under the knob, and let my backpack slide to the floor with a small, exhausted thump. My wolf stretched inside me, cautious, listening, then curled around the smaller heartbeat I still wasn't sure I deserved. "Just tonight," I whispered to both of us. "We move at dawn." The floorboards answered with a quiet, settling creak. An hour later the storm started. Cold, needling rain that turned the window panes into fog and the roof into a drum. I ate half a protein bar, drank from the tap, and found a stack of split logs beside the hearth. I told myself I'd pay for what I used. I told myself a lot of things. Mostly I told myself that the tracks I'd left through the pines were already washing away. That was true. What wasn't? Hunters follow scent, not footprints. And the one who'd looked me in the eye 2 nights ago, pale, careful stainless steel ring on his trigger finger, didn't strike me as the type to let a job dissolve in rain. I found a first aid tin in a drawer. Gauze, iodine, a neat row of blister packs, and a single silver bullet in a plastic bag marked in black Sharpie. Reminder. My fingertips went cold. Someone had put the bullet away on purpose. Not as a threat, as a lesson. I didn't like the lesson. I snapped the tin shut and kept moving, mapping the space the way I map people. Windows, exits, moods. The bedroom was spare. Thick quilt, black t-shirt crumpled on the dresser, the faint musk of a man who runs before dawn. The bathroom had a nicked shaving mug, peppermint toothpaste, and a small white scar along the edge of the mirror where someone had probably punched their reflection and then felt stupid about it. The storm built. My shoulders unknotted one reluctant muscle at a time. I made a fire, cupped my hands to the warmth, and pretended this was my cabin and my life and my rules. The lie lasted maybe 20 minutes. The front lock turned, not the knob, the deadbolt. A deliberate scrape of metal, a pause. A second scrape like someone rethought kindness and chose caution. Instinct hit first. My wolf flared, silent and bright, and shoved me behind the couch. It was a ridiculous shield, but it made us feel better. My hand found the iron poker, not a great weapon against a bullet, but excellent for stabbing a shoe in a pinch. The door opened, and the storm walked in, wearing a man. He moved like quiet had weight. Tall, broad through the chest, shoulders damp, a hooded jacket dripping a dark constellation onto the mat. He shut the door with one hand, sniffed the air once, and every hair on my body rose. Alpha. And something else. Something the cabin recognized before I did. The way the room held him. The way the fire leaped. His gaze slid to the boots I'd nudged out of alignment. Traitors. And then to the chair lodged under the knob. Double traitor. He lifted the chair free with 2 fingers, set it down, and spoke in a voice like a low note you feel in your ribs. "You've got 10 seconds to tell me you're not here to hurt me," he said, "and I'll try to pretend I believe it." I stood slowly, poker loose in my grip, belly tight, lungs tighter. Depends on your definition of hurt. Stabbing me with my own fireplace tools counts. Then I'm a pacifist. His eyes tracked the poker. He didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't need to. Alphas are weapons. Name. Savannah. I swallowed. Quinn. His nostrils flared as the damp air caught my scent. Cedar smoke, cold rain, adrenaline. And underneath it, the new thing, the wild citrus-sweet metallic note I couldn't hide anymore. His pupils blew wide. For a heartbeat, the alpha went still. "Oh," he said, like a man hit by a memory. "You're pregnant." My grip tightened. "I'm a lot of things. That one's my business." A corner of his mouth moved, not a smile, not yet. "You're in my house. That makes you my business. I disagree. Also, technically, I didn't break in." The door was emotionally open a beat, then another. He looked at the lock he'd just undone. His shoulders did a slow, incredulous thing, as if they wanted to laugh, but his history wouldn't allow it. "Emotionally open," he repeated, tasting the words. "That's a new one. Congratulations. It's free." The corner of his mouth moved again, closer. He shrugged off his jacket, hung it on a hook, and the room filled up with his scent. Rain, pine, something iron-rich like old pennies and long oaths. My wolf lifted her head, confused and awake, not afraid. He kept a careful distance, hands where I could see them, gentle with the space, as if I were the one who belonged here and he was the intruder. "Kellan Blackwell," he said. "This is my cabin." Of course it was. Blackwell, local pack name, the kind you hear in grocery store whispers and on council voting rosters. Alpha lineage, the hunter's flip side. I lowered the poker half an inch, but no more. "I'll be gone by morning." "I won't touch anything else. You touched the fire." Semantics. I touched the concept of warmth, that almost smile again. Then, gone. His gaze flicked to my face, to the bruise blooming along my cheekbone like a rude flower, to the way I was favoring my left side. He didn't ask permission. He simply saw. Alphas are good at that, cataloging damage, calculating threat. He took one quiet step toward the kitchen, opened a cupboard, and set a clean glass on the counter. "There's stew in the fridge," he said. "Eat. I'll change the sheets. I'm not—" I started, then stopped. "You don't know me." "You're shaking," he said without looking back. "And you smell like wet dog and fear. No offense to your dog." "My dog is fine." "Good," he said. "Feed both of you." Something inside my chest gave a tiny, traitorous lurch. People talk about Alpha Command like it's a spell. It's not. It's a rhythm. Calm, declarative sentences that make you remember your bones. I hated it. I heated the stew anyway. He moved around me with that same deliberate grace, swapping his wet boots for dry, catching the drips with a towel, stoking the fire with a practiced wrist. He checked the windows, the back door, the hall, not because he feared me, but because he feared what might follow me. The care was so matter-of-fact it stung. While the stew simmered, I found my voice again. I can pay for the wood. And the food. I have cash. He shook his head. You can pay by telling the truth. Why here? Why alone? Why the bruise? I fell. On what? His tone didn't rise, but a current moved under it. On life. He turned then, fully, those storm-colored eyes steady as a tide. Try again, Savannah Quinn. I stared at him over the lip of the spoon. I should have lied more convincingly, but exhaustion does what silver can't. It softens your armor from the inside. The words slipped. There are people looking for me, I said. The kind who label bullets like reminders. His gaze snagged on something invisible. Hunters. Not the weekend warrior kind. The pay-your-mortgage kind. Humans? Mostly. He drew a breath that asked a different question than his mouth did. And the father? Isn't invited. My wolf flicked an ear, unimpressed. I'm not here to make trouble for your pack. I didn't even know this cabin was yours. You picked it because it's high ground, I said, honest before I could stop it. And because the wind shifts hard across the ridge. Harder to track scent if you keep moving from room to room, I gestured, sheepish. And because the way the porch faces the line of birch means you can see anyone coming from the logging road before they see you. He studied me for a long, slow moment that felt like being weighed, not judged. Then he reached into the junk drawer, took out a pencil, and dragged a laminated topo map from under the fruit bowl. He laid it on the table, rain still pattering like impatient fingers on the roof. "Show me," he said. I set the spoon down. The stew smelled like thyme and something smoky. I shouldn't have been hungry, but my body was greedy. I circled the cabin with my fingertip, tapped the logging road, the creek, the routes I'd taken, the gap in the fence line behind the abandoned substation where the moonlight got caught in the razor wire like frost. He nodded. "You cut through Oriole Wash." Not a question. "Yeah." Smart. My chest did that lurch again. Compliments are dangerous. They make you forget you're supposed to leave. I borrowed his pencil and drew an X where I'd seen the hunter last. A flash of pale face under a hood, breath ghosting in the cold, that ring glinting when he lifted his hand to the sight. Kellan's jaw went hard. "I know him," he said softly. "Or his employer." "You going to call the council?" I asked, dry. "Have a stern chat about ethics?" "I'm going to make sure he doesn't step on our land again." "Good luck." He steps lightly. Kellan's gaze flicked to my belly, then to the door, then to the fire, making a silent triangle of priorities. Protect the vulnerable, secure the perimeter, keep the light. Wolves speak in geometry sometimes. We pretend we're chaos. Really, we draw circles around what matters and guard the lines. "Eat," he said again. "Then sleep." I'll sit up. "My wolf doesn't like that," I said, surprised to hear it out loud. "She doesn't like being watched while she pretends she doesn't need watching," he said without irony. "Neither do I, so I'll watch the door instead of you." I should have argued. I should have grabbed my backpack and gone back into the rain and made some noble, ridiculous speech about independence. Instead, I ate, and when the bowl was clean and the map was marked and the fire had settled into a comfortable one-log glow, I let him lead me to the spare room like a wary stray, every step a negotiation. He turned down the quilt. The air smelled like soap and cedar, and something softer under both. He didn't reach for me. He didn't crowd the doorway. He just set a glass of water on the bedside table and spoke in that same low, practical cadence. "If anything changes," he said, "call my name." "What, are you summoned like a cat?" "I'm worse," he said, deadpan. "I'm local government." Despite myself, I smiled. It felt like a bruise being kissed by accident. "Thank you," I said finally, the words small and huge. He nodded once. "Rest, Savannah." He shut the door most of the way. Not a click, just a hush. The rain shifted to a softer register. I lay on my side, one hand over the newest piece of my life, and pretended not to listen for the creak of his chair by the front door. He sat. He didn't move for a very long time. I almost slept. Then the world cracked. A branch? No, the wrong timbre. A clean, mean sound like a knuckle snapping. The glass on the bedside table trembled. My wolf was up before I was, teeth bared inside my chest. "Down," Kellan said from the front room, voice sharp, command slicing the air, not at me, past me, at whatever waited outside. The door shuddered, the fire flared. I reached for the backpack, for the knife in the side pocket, for the small folded envelope sewn into the lining, the one smeared with old brown fingerprints and stamped with a sigil I'd hoped I'd misremembered. I tore it free with shaking hands. The seal cracked. Inside was a photo. Fresh, too fresh. Me, today, in the rain, 2 miles from here. On the back, a line of tidy block letters in waterproof ink. "Run where you like, little Omega. We'll learn your den." A shadow crossed the spare room window. A soft, deliberate tap on the glass, too low to be the wind. I pressed the photo to my belly and stood up into the dark. "Would you have stayed?" I whispered to whatever gods listen to fools, "or burned it all down?" No answer. Just the storm. And Kellan Blackwell, alpha of this land, rising from his chair like the tide lifts a ship, eyes gone to iron. "Savannah," he called, voice steady. "Stay behind the wall." I tucked the knife into my palm. "Yeah," I said, and my voice didn't shake. About that. Chapter 2. The gunshot didn't come. That was the worst part. The waiting. I crouched beside the bed, hand clamped over my belly, heartbeat loud enough to make the floorboards join in. Through the door, I heard Kellan move. Not running, not rushing. Moving. The kind of movement that has history behind it. Heavy steps that said I've done this before and I survived every time. Then silence. Then his voice. Low, steady, close enough to make my pulse misbehave. "Savannah. You can come out. I didn't move right away. I'm cautious, not stupid." "That's what serial killers say," I muttered. He didn't laugh. Typical alpha. I grabbed the knife from my boot anyway and cracked the door just enough to peek. The fire still glowed, but its warmth couldn't touch the tension in the room. Kellan stood by the window, shoulders tight beneath his gray Henley, eyes locked on the dark outside. A single bullet hole marked the far corner of the frame. Neat, precise, a message. He was holding a rifle, not aimed, just resting in his grip like an extension of his will. "They fired from the tree line," he said. "Too far for humans to smell you." "They must have used scent tags," I frowned. "You say that like it's normal." "It is. For hunters who think the world owes them prey." He turned toward me, scanning me like a scanner at airport security. No judgment, just confirmation I was still in one piece. "You okay?" Define okay. Still capable of sarcasm. Then yes. Perfectly fine. He almost smiled, and for a terrifying moment I wanted him to. I hated that I wanted it, that small flicker of comfort. I didn't trust comfort. Comfort got you complacent, and complacency got you caught. He walked to the door, flipped the deadbolt, and dragged the couch across the entryway with one arm. The muscles in his forearm flexed like sin in motion. I pretended not to notice. "They'll back off for now," he said. "But we'll need rules if you're staying here." "Rules?" I scoffed. "What am I, your pack trainee? You broke into my home, ate my stew, and now I'm cleaning up bullet casings. You're lucky I don't charge rent. I'll pay in emotional support." "I don't need emotional support." "That explains the jaw tension." His eyes flicked to mine, storm gray, unreadable, and something in his expression said, "Don't push me," but beneath it there was something else too. "Don't leave." "Rule 1, he said finally. "You don't go outside alone." I crossed my arms. "That's controlling. That's survival." "Fine." "Rule 2? You keep your scent masked." I gestured to my stomach. "You try masking hormones and prenatal vitamins. Then you stay close to me." That one landed like a thrown knife. "Excuse me?" He met my stare head on, no apology, no dominance, just pure fact. "If they track you by scent, mine will cover it." "I'm alpha-born. My scent overrides." "Oh, good," I said sweetly. "A walking air freshener with commitment issues." "Rule 3, he continued, ignoring me. "No lying." "About what?" "Anything." I froze. My tongue felt suddenly heavy. There were things I couldn't tell him. Not yet. Things like the letter still tucked in my pack. The one that had my name printed over an official hunter's seal. The one that meant they didn't just want me. They owned me once. "What happens if I break a rule?" I asked lightly. His eyes softened for the first time. "Then I remind you why I made them." I swallowed. There were 100 ways to interpret that tone. None of them felt safe. All of them felt warm. He turned away, setting the rifle beside the mantel. His profile caught the firelight, jaw shadowed, scar along the neck glinting faintly. Whoever Kellan Blackwell had been before this quiet cabin life, it wasn't peaceful. "You should rest," he said, voice rougher now. "The adrenaline won't last long." "Adrenaline and I are old friends." Then let it sleep. You'll need your strength. For what? For trusting me. That stopped me, like a hand against my chest. He left me standing there, speechless and confused, to retreat into his study. A door I hadn't noticed before, half hidden behind a bookshelf. It clicked shut with the soft authority of someone used to being obeyed. Later, the fire burned low. The cabin settled into its bones again. I cleaned up the dishes because pretending to be useful keeps panic away. The stew pot clinked too loud, so I whispered to it. Sorry, it's been a night. My wolf had gone quiet, not asleep, just thoughtful. She didn't trust Kellan, but she didn't fear him either, which, honestly, scared me more. I found myself wandering to that hidden door, the study. Something about it nagged at me. Curiosity is my worst vice, right after caffeine and bad men. The handle was locked, of course it was, but the key hung from a hook near the window, like he was daring me. I hesitated. He'd said no lying, not no snooping. I turned the key. The smell hit first. Old parchment, cedar oil, and something metallic beneath. The room was smaller than expected, lit by a single lamp and stacked with ledgers, maps, and a wall covered in photos, pinned by silver tacks. Faces, places, hunters. And in the center, drawn in red ink, a sigil I recognized too well, the same one on the envelope I'd hidden. My stomach dropped. You shouldn't be in here. Kellan's voice was quiet but sharp. I froze, halfway between guilt and defiance. He stood in the doorway, no anger on his face, just weary inevitability. I was curious, I said. Curiosity gets omegas killed. So does ignorance, he sighed, stepping inside. His gaze swept over the wall. That mark, what do you know about it? I swallowed. Enough to run. Not enough to stop running, he said softly. He reached out and removed one of the pinned photos, a hunter wearing that same stainless steel ring. They killed my father, he said. Pack Alpha before me. They branded him with this mark before they shot him. I've been tracking them ever since the words dropped like stones into the quiet. Oh, I said faintly. So we have mutual trauma. Cute. He shot me a look that should have burned, but instead it warmed something raw inside me. You think that's funny? Only because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. He studied me a long moment, then nodded, like he understood. Then laugh quietly, he said, and don't touch the map. By the time I returned to the spare room, the storm had thinned to drizzle. I curled under the quilt and watched the firelight crawl along the ceiling. Somewhere behind the wall, Kellan paced, phone murmuring, voice too low to catch words. When I finally drifted toward sleep, my hand rested over my belly. I whispered to the tiny, unplanned heartbeat that had already rewritten my life. We'll stay here a few days, I murmured, just until it's safe. The Alpha can't possibly want us around longer than that. My wolf huffed inside me, equal parts amused and knowing. Because we both felt the truth under my words. Kellan Blackwell wasn't planning to let us go, and worse, I wasn't sure I wanted to leave. Chapter 3. Morning arrived like it owed me an apology, the kind of light that filters through trees, shy and gold, pretending the night before didn't involve bullets or confessions. I sat at the small kitchen table, wrapped in one of Kellan's flannel shirts, because my own clothes were still drying by the fire. The shirt smelled like cedar, soap, and faint adrenaline, all the makings of poor decision-making material. He was outside when I woke, chopping wood like it insulted him personally. Every swing of the axe sent small clouds of breath into the cold air. His control was terrifying, beautiful but terrifying. I told myself I wasn't watching. I was assessing the risk. Yeah, right. He came in 20 minutes later, sweat dampening his hairline, expression unreadable. He poured coffee for both of us without asking. Black for him, 2 sugars for me. I didn't remember telling him that detail. Maybe wolves didn't need to. You slept? He asked. Barely. I sipped. You? I don't sleep much. Insomnia or trauma? Yes. I barked a laugh before I could stop it. He glanced up, surprised, like laughter wasn't part of his emotional vocabulary. Don't look so shocked, I said. I'm capable of joy. Briefly, usually right before disaster, I can tell. He sat across from me. You've got that look, the kind of person who still jokes at their own funeral. Someone's got to keep it interesting. We ate in a silence that wasn't entirely uncomfortable, the kind where two people are too aware of the air between them. Then he set his mug down. Savannah, I need to ask something. That's never a good sign. The father of your child, does he know what you are? My stomach tightened. You mean Omega? Or a person with opinions? Both. I stared at the table. He knew enough to use me. Didn't stop him, Kellan's jaw flexed. Name? No. Savannah? I said no. My voice was sharper than intended. I don't need another alpha fighting battles I already lost. The words hung between us, heavy as a storm. He didn't argue, just leaned back, studying me like I was a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. You think I'm trying to control you, he said finally. I'm not. I'm trying to keep you breathing. That's the same speech my ex gave before he locked the door. I'm not him. Good, I said softly. He wasn't half as interesting. That earned me the faintest smirk, barely there, but real. After breakfast, I offered to help stack the woodpile. It wasn't generosity. I just needed movement to outrun my thoughts. The air outside smelled clean, pine, frost, and the lingering sharpness of last night's gunpowder. Kellan was already working, bare hands, rhythm steady. His t-shirt clung to his back, outlining muscle like carved stone. My wolf, unhelpful creature, stretched lazily inside me. You're staring, he said without looking up. I'm analyzing your form, I lied. Terrible posture. Sure, his mouth twitched. You analyzing anything else? Your fashion sense. Needs help, I live alone in the woods. Forgive me for not caring about flannel aesthetics. You should. It's half your personality, and the other half? Overbearing charm, I said. And a suspiciously tragic backstory. That made him stop. Axe midair. The silence that followed wasn't dangerous. It was charged, like thunder deciding whether to strike. He turned slowly, eyes catching the light, and that's when I saw it. The scar. It ran from his collarbone to the base of his throat, silver white and brutal, like someone had tried to carve his heartbeat out. I hadn't noticed it before because he always angled away from the firelight. What happened? I asked quietly. A hunter's blade, he said. The night my father died. I stopped the bleeding, not the memory. I didn't know what to say to that. Words felt too small, so I did what I do best, deflect with humor. Looks badass, I said softly. It hurts when it rains. Then it's honest. He blinked, like he hadn't expected kindness. Then something strange flickered across his face. Not dominance, not desire, recognition. For one suspended moment, I felt it too. A pulse between us. Quiet but electric, the wolf inside me lifting her head in startled awareness. His scent changed first. Deeper, heavier. My skin prickled. Kellan, I warned. Don't, he murmured, voice suddenly rough. Don't move. Not exactly comforting. Your scent, he cut off, inhaling sharply, eyes darkening from gray to storm cloud. Savannah, you're triggering my wolf. I'm what now? He stepped back fast, fists clenching like he was holding himself together by muscle memory. His chest rose and fell hard. I could almost feel the energy rolling off him. Command, restraint, hunger. You said you were early in the pregnancy, he said, each word precise, strained. I am. Then why does your pheromone spike like it's bonding season? I blinked. Maybe I'm just really charming? This isn't a joke. His voice broke through my weak humor like a growl under silk. When my wolf reacts like this, it's not random. Then what is it? He stared at me for a long moment, long enough for the wind to shift and for my heart to forget how to keep time. "It means," he said quietly, "there's a chance you're mine." I laughed. I had to. "Oh, sure, let's just ignore biology, logic, and common sense." "I don't want this any more than you do," he said quickly. "But wolves don't always ask permission." "Yeah, well, neither do hormones, apparently." He raked a hand through his hair, pacing. "You don't understand. I've never reacted to anyone like this. Not since—" He trailed off. "Not since my wolf almost died with my father." Something inside me twisted. Grief recognizes grief. I lowered my voice. "So what? Fate just decided to pair us like cosmic leftovers?" He looked up. "Fate's crueler than that." The air between us thickened, the kind of silence that hums with danger and promise at once. My wolf trembled inside me, unsure whether to bare her teeth or her throat. "Kellan," I said, trying to sound steady, "this isn't happening. I don't belong to anyone. I didn't say you did." He stepped closer, stopping just shy of my space. "But if hunters come back, my wolf will protect you whether I like it or not." "That's convenient," I muttered. "An involuntary bodyguard." He smiled just slightly. "Think of it as a side effect." I met his gaze and saw something raw there, not dominance, not pity, but a vow forming before either of us meant it to. He reached for the axe, splitting one last log clean through, the sound echoing like punctuation. "Rule 4, he said finally, without looking up. "If anyone tries to touch you, even me, tell me to stop." "Okay, and if I don't, hit me." I blinked. "You'd let me hit an alpha?" "Only one." His eyes met mine, serious and dark. Me. I didn't know if it was a warning or a promise, maybe both. That night I couldn't sleep. The scar and the words kept looping in my head. "You're mine, only if I don't stop." The fire burned low, throwing soft gold across the walls. I found myself drifting toward the living room, unable to shake the pull. Kellan sat by the window again, chair angled toward the forest, rifle within reach, expression far away. He didn't look at me when he spoke. "You should rest." "I can't." Because of what I said? Because of what it felt like. That made him glance back, finally, eyes gentler now, but no less dangerous. "Then let's call it what it is. A mistake waiting to happen. Maybe." I sank into the opposite chair. "Or maybe it's a promise waiting to keep itself." He exhaled, long and shaky, and for the first time I saw something close to fear in him. "You don't know what you're inviting, Savannah." "I know exactly what I'm running from," I said softly. "Maybe that's close enough." We sat there, two broken creatures pretending the dark couldn't hear us breathe. Outside, the forest whispered. Somewhere far off, a branch snapped again, but this time it wasn't a threat. It was the sound of something watching, waiting, maybe fate, maybe the hunters, maybe both. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't sure which scared me more, the men chasing me, or the alpha who might catch me first. Chapter 4. If sleep was a luxury, then nightmares were free samples. And I'd been overdosing for weeks. I dreamed of silver traps gleaming under moonlight, of fingers with stainless steel rings tightening around my wrist, of a voice whispering, "Run where you like, little Omega. We always learn your scent." When I woke, the fire was cold. The cabin was too quiet. Kellan wasn't in his chair. The clock above the mantel ticked, steady and calm, like it didn't care that my heart had just leapt into DEFCON 1. I threw on my flannel, the one that smelled faintly of him, and checked the door. Still locked, still barricaded with the couch. His boots were gone. So was his rifle. "Perfect," I muttered. "Brooding alpha with a death wish." Classic. My wolf stirred uneasily. He's not dead. I didn't say he was. You thought it. Fair. I busied myself making tea, a terrible idea, because it gave me nothing to do but think. Every shadow in the corners of the cabin looked like movement. Every creak sounded like a footstep that wasn't his. Finally, I gave up pretending to be calm. If Kellan wanted me to follow rules, he shouldn't have left me unsupervised with anxiety and opposable thumbs. The study door was still ajar. I stepped inside cautiously, half expecting him to materialize out of thin air and lecture me. He didn't. The scent of cedar oil and old paper wrapped around me again, familiar now, almost comforting. I skimmed my fingers across the desk, tracing the edge of the leather blotter, the maps, the scattered notes written in tight, deliberate handwriting. That's when I noticed the loose floorboard under the desk. I crouched, pressed my palm against it. It shifted, just slightly, like a secret inhaling. "I'm not snooping," I told the air. "I'm risk assessing." My wolf snorted. "Sure you are." The board lifted easily. Beneath it sat a small black leather ledger, bound with a strip of dark ribbon and stained at one corner with something that wasn't dust. I pulled it out, heartbeat hammering. The first page was neat, elegant script. Names, dates, locations. The heading read, "Pack Registry, Blackwell Lineage, 1987 to present." But halfway through, the handwriting changed. Sharper, colder, human. And the title above those pages wasn't Registry. It was Acquisitions. My stomach turned. The entries listed targets. Not wolves who'd gone rogue. Wolves sold. Bought. I skimmed line after line until my eyes caught one word that made everything tilt. Omega Breeding Program. Phase 2. My name wasn't there. But my mother's was. I couldn't breathe. The words blurred. "Savannah?" The voice hit me like a thunderclap. I spun, nearly dropping the book. Kellan stood in the doorway, hair wet from the rain, eyes storm-dark and unreadable. "Where were you?" I demanded, too shaken to sound casual. "Checking the perimeter." His gaze flicked to the ledger in my hands. "You found it. You knew this was here?" "I was looking for the right time." "The right time?" My voice rose. "The right time for what? A PowerPoint presentation on how my mother's name ended up on a trafficking list?" He flinched, just slightly, like the words hit bone. "Savannah, listen to me." "No, you listen." I slammed the ledger on the desk. "You said you were tracking the hunters who killed your father. You didn't say your family did business with them. My father didn't know—" "Bullshit." My voice cracked. "Someone in this house did." Someone wrote those names. He moved toward me, slow, careful. It wasn't him. It was his brother, my uncle. He ran the registry. When my father found out, he tried to stop it. That's why they branded him. That's why they killed him. I stared at him, the world narrowing to the space between us. "And my mother?" He swallowed hard. "She was one of the Omegas taken before the program was exposed. I didn't know her name until now." The sound that came out of me wasn't human. It was grief's sharp cousin, disbelief breaking into fury. "She died running," I whispered. "They said it was a rogue attack, but she was running from them." "I'm sorry. Don't say that." "I mean it. That's the worst part," I snapped. "You actually mean it." The room vibrated with the weight of things neither of us knew how to say. The rain hit harder, drumming the windows like a warning. "You shouldn't have found that yet," he said quietly. "You shouldn't have hidden it." He exhaled through his teeth, stepping back. "You're shaking." "I'm fine." "Savannah, I said I'm fine." "You're not." His voice softened, breaking through my panic. "You're in shock." "Sit down before you fall down. I don't take orders." "They're not orders." His tone went gentler still. "They're care disguised as bad communication." Against my will, a laugh escaped me, cracked, wet, and messy. "You're terrible at comfort." "I'm better at protection." "Prove it." His eyes darkened. "How?" "Find whoever's still running this list," I said, voice low, "and end it." "I planned to." "Good," I said, "because I'm helping." That earned me the full alpha glare. "Not a chance." I wasn't asking. "You're pregnant. And you're insufferable. You think this is a game?" "No," I said quietly. I think it's my legacy. And I'm done running from it. He stared at me a long, long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Small, dangerous, proud. Fine, he said. Rule 5. You follow my lead, Rule 5, I echoed. I pretend to. We didn't talk much for the rest of the day. The silence between us was thick with unsaid things. Guilt, anger, strange new trust. I caught him glancing at me sometimes, eyes softening before he looked away. I hated that it helped. Later, while he fixed the back door latch, I tucked the ledger back under the floorboard. But I kept one page, my mother's, folded into my pocket. Proof, purpose. When the fire burned low, I whispered to my unborn child again. She ran so we could stop running, I said. Maybe that's the promise. Outside, the rain eased. Inside, the air shifted, like the cabin itself had exhaled. Kellan looked up from the fire, meeting my gaze across the quiet. For what it's worth, he said softly, if I'd known her name sooner, I would have found her. I nodded, voice too thick to reply. But inside, my wolf stirred. He found you instead. And somehow, that felt like both a curse and a beginning. Chapter 5. By morning, the rain had given up, but peace didn't bother showing up either. Kellan was pacing outside before sunrise, phone glued to his ear, voice low and clipped. I caught words like territory breach, council inspection, and my personal favorite, don't tell me how to run my land. He ended the call with a growl that could have scared thunder. Bad news? I asked, leaning against the doorframe, clutching my tea like a shield. Council's coming, he muttered. Council? Like homeowners association but furrier? He gave me a look. They're the regional alphas. Think power suits and pack law. Ah, bureaucrats with bite. They want to check on things. Translation, they heard I have company. Please tell me that company is you referring to a friend and not me. They heard an unregistered Omega crossed into our land. That's you. Oh, good, I said sweetly, because nothing says peace and quiet like a bunch of judgmental wolves holding a surprise inspection. You can't be here when they arrive. Excuse me? They don't take kindly to outsiders. Especially Omegas without ties. They'll think you're a spy, I laughed, hollow and sharp. Right, because heavily pregnant, half-starved spies are just everywhere these days. Savannah. His tone was full alpha now, low, commanding, all calm power wrapped in warning. Please. That single word, please, unraveled me a little. I'm not running again, I said quietly. Not when I just found out who my mother was. I won't hide while men in fancy coats decide my fate. They won't decide anything. Then why are you worried? He didn't answer, which of course told me everything. When they arrived, the air shifted, like the forest itself held its breath. 4 vehicles, black and gleaming, rolled up the muddy path. Wolves stepped out in pressed jackets and practiced arrogance. Every one of them radiated authority. And every one of them stared at me like I'd just wandered into the wrong church wearing blood. Alpha Blackwell, said the oldest of them, tall and silver-haired, his tone polite as poison. We heard rumors you've been harboring a complication. Kellan's posture changed. Straight spine, shoulders square, voice smooth. The alpha mask. I'm harboring no one. She's under my protection. Same difference, said another younger man with an easy smirk and 2 perfect teeth. Protection, possession, line's thin, isn't it? The older one sniffed the air. His eyes flicked to me. Omega. I forced a smile. Human, technically. Omega's more of a personality type. Kellan shot me a look that said not helping. She's not a threat, he said. She's pregnant. Needs shelter. Then she should be with her pack, the silver-haired one replied. Not here, distracting you while rogues encroach on your border. Rogues, hunters. Apparently no one believed in regular stress anymore. The younger wolf, Cassian if I remembered the whispered name, circled closer. He smelled expensive, predatory in a polite cologne-covered way. "Funny thing," he said, tilting his head. "That scar on your alpha's neck?" My father told me it came from a raid tied to a certain Omega trafficking ring. "I hear one of the founders used your last name, Quinn." My blood ran cold. "You've got bad sources," I said. He smiled like a knife. "Maybe. Or maybe you're bad at hiding." Before I could respond, Kellan stepped between us. No growl, no raised voice, just sheer authority pressing the air flat. "Cassian, step back, just curious. Step. Back." The younger alpha smirked but obeyed, hands up. "Relax, Blackwell. We're all friends here. We're not." That was the first time I'd heard Kellan's wolf in his tone, deep, resonant, the kind that makes you forget your heartbeat belongs to you. Even the council flinched. The silver-haired one frowned. "You're protective of her." "I protect what's mine." I froze. The words hit harder than any claim mark. He didn't look at me when he said it, but every cell in my body heard it. Cassian raised a brow. "Yours." Kellan didn't answer. Didn't have to. The silence said it for him. The council exchanged glances, silent conclusions forming like storm clouds. "We'll report this," the elder said finally. "You're compromised, Kellan. Whatever this is, end it. Before it ends, you noted." They turned to leave, the air snapping with unspoken tension. But just before he stepped off the porch, Cassian looked back, eyes flicking to me. "Be careful, Omega," he said softly. "You don't know which alpha to fear yet." Then he was gone. The sound of engines faded into the distance. Kellan stood there for a long moment, watching the road, shoulders tight enough to splinter. "Are they always that charming?" I asked. "They're worse when they like you." "Lucky me." He turned toward me slowly. The line between alpha and man blurred. Both looked ready to break. "You shouldn't have been here." I handled myself. "You shouldn't have to." There it was again, the weight of guilt he carried like a birthright. I stepped closer. "They think you're compromised because you didn't sell me out." "They think I'm compromised because they're right." My breath caught. "Kellan!" He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. Not touching, not yet, just near enough that the warmth of him soaked through my ribs. "You saw what they saw," he said. "They want control. I want you alive. That's the difference. I'm not sure I know how to be alive anymore." "Then let me remind you." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric, a fragile truce and something else blooming under it. My wolf leaned forward inside me, curious. His wolf mirrored her. The air vibrated between our breaths. For a second I thought he'd close the gap. He didn't. He stepped back instead, jaw tight, eyes gone iron again. "Pack will expect me in the city tomorrow," he said roughly. "Council session." "You'll stay here." "I'm not." "Please." That word again, the one that made refusal sound cruel. "Fine," I said finally, "but if you don't come back, I'm selling your flannels." That earned me the ghost of a smile. Deal. When he left the next morning, the cabin felt colder. I kept myself busy, cleaning, sorting, pretending. But by late afternoon, curiosity got the better of me. I returned to the study, intending to reread my mother's page. That's when I found it. An envelope I hadn't seen before wedged under the ledger. Inside was a single photo. Cassian, standing beside my ex. And on the back, scrawled in fresh ink, "Trade postponed. Subject relocated to Blackwell cabin." My blood went cold. I didn't need a translation. They hadn't just found me by accident. Someone sold them the information. Someone close. And if the council knew, then Kellan might not be walking into a meeting. He was walking into an ambush. Chapter 6. By the time I realized what the letter meant, Kellan had been gone for 3 hours. 3 hours was enough time for a pack council to stage a meeting. 2 hours was enough for a betrayal. And 1 minute was enough to lose someone you were stupidly starting to care about. I stared at the photo again. Cassian and my ex, shoulder to shoulder, both smiling like men who never had to fear consequences. The note's handwriting was deliberate, expensive ink, like whoever wrote it enjoyed the power of their pen. Trade postponed. Subject relocated to Blackwell cabin subject. That was me. I folded the photo once, twice, until it was small enough to disappear into my palm. "You're not really doing this," I told myself. My wolf answered dryly, "You already are." The cabin's truck keys were hanging on a hook by the door, next to Kellan's jacket. He'd left his scent all over them. Pine, steel, stubbornness. It wrapped around me the second I touched the fabric, and for a moment my heart stuttered in something that felt dangerously like belonging. Then I remembered the council, Cassian, my ex, and the fact that the man who'd just promised to protect me was walking straight into a room of wolves and liars who wanted him dead. So, yeah, belonging could wait. The drive into the city was a nightmare. The road wound through forest and fog, every turn whispering reasons to turn back. My wolf hated the asphalt. It felt unnatural under the tires. I hated the silence more. Halfway there, rain started again, soft but insistent. My stomach twisted with nerves and nausea, the baby reminding me that stress was a luxury I couldn't afford. "Yeah," I murmured to the bump. "Your dad's an idiot and your mom's worse. Welcome to the family." My wolf snorted. "Technically, he's not the father." "Technicalities are for tax returns, not trauma." By the time I reached the council hall, an old courthouse repurposed into something equal parts Gothic and bureaucratic, the meeting had already started. 2 sentries stood at the entrance, both wearing the Blackwell crest. "Alpha business," one growled when I tried to pass. "I'm here for Kellan Blackwell," I said. "It's urgent." The taller one crossed his arms. "He's in session." "I don't care if he's in therapy, I'm going in." They stepped in front of me. My wolf didn't like that. For the first time in years, she moved. Not a full shift, not even close, but the air around me changed. The scent that rolled off my skin was sharp, wild, and unmistakably wolf. Both guards froze. "Try me," I said quietly. They didn't. The hall's double doors were thick oak. I pushed them open mid-argument. "You're letting sentiment cloud your judgment." Cassian's voice rang sharp through the chamber. "Your father would never have let this slide." "My father's dead because of men like you," Kellan shot back. The room fell silent when they saw me. It was a beautiful kind of silence, horrified, scandalized, and thick enough to drown in. "Savannah," Kellan said, eyes widening. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Saving your life, apparently." "You shouldn't breathe, shouldn't speak, shouldn't exist?" "Yeah, I've heard that before." I walked straight up the aisle, boots echoing. "You're not the only one being hunted, Alpha." I tossed the photo onto the long oak table in front of them. It slid perfectly, landing between Cassian's manicured hands. "Care to explain why you and my ex-boyfriend are business partners?" I asked. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Shock, denial, whispers. Cassian's smirk faltered for the first time. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," I said, voice steady now. "You've been feeding information to the hunters. The same ones who killed Kellan's father. The same ones who ran the Omega program. You have no proof. The ledger in your pack's archives says otherwise." Every head turned to Kellan. He hadn't moved. His gaze was locked on Cassian, and something ancient flickered behind his eyes. "You sold them names," Kellan said quietly. "Didn't you?" Cassian laughed. "Don't be naive. You think I'd dirty my hands with human business?" "You didn't have to," Kellan said. "You had mine." The tension broke like lightning. Cassian lunged first, not at Kellan but at me. I didn't think, I just moved. My wolf surged, instinct overriding everything human. I ducked, twisted, and drove my knee into his stomach hard enough to knock the air from him. Kellan was faster. 1 second Cassian was standing, the next he was pinned against the table, Kellan's hand around his throat. "You tried to sell her," Kellan snarled. "To them." "She's a resource," Cassian wheezed. "You're wasting her potential." Kellan slammed him down so hard the table cracked. "She's not a resource." "She's under my protection," the other council members shouted, half rising from their seats. I didn't move, couldn't, because at that exact moment the side door burst open, and 3 men in black stepped inside, rifles raised. Hunters. One of them smiled when he saw me, my ex. "Savannah," he drawled. "Long time no see." "Oh, perfect," I muttered. "Now it's a reunion." The room exploded. Wolves shifted, claws tearing through fabric, furniture shattering. Gunfire roared, sharp metallic thunder. Kellan yanked me behind a marble pillar, shielding me with his body as bullets ripped through the council chamber. "You brought them here," he shouted over the chaos. "I brought the truth." "Next time, bring better timing." Something hot and heavy hit the pillar, a bullet close enough to burn. I flinched, instinct curling me tighter against him. His breath hit the side of my neck, harsh and fast. "Stay down," he ordered, not planning to stretch. He peered around the pillar, then glanced back at me. "When I move, go left. There's a side exit near the stairs. And you?" "I'll handle them." "You mean die dramatically and then I have to avenge you while pregnant?" "Hard pass, Savannah." I said no. I reached out, grabbed his arm. "We do this together." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Together." We moved as one. Kellan surged from behind the pillar, shifting halfway mid-stride, eyes blazing, voice breaking into a growl that shook the marble floor. He took down the first hunter in 2 strides, claws flashing, raw strength incarnate. I darted for the side exit, ducking behind fallen chairs, dragging a second gunman's rifle out of reach when he aimed. He kicked me off, but my wolf was faster than my fear. I grabbed the edge of a broken table leg and swung. It connected, hard. Somewhere behind me, Cassian screamed. The smell of blood hit the air. Not human. Wolf. Kellan turned, chest heaving, face streaked with crimson that wasn't his. The surviving council members had joined the fight, and the hunters were losing. When the last gun fell silent, the hall reeked of silver and smoke. I leaned against the wall, panting, heart threatening to punch through my ribs. Kellan crossed the floor toward me, shifting back halfway, clothes torn, eyes still glowing. He reached me and cupped my face in his hand, thumb brushing a streak of dust from my cheek. "You're insane," he said hoarsely. "Thank you," I breathed. "You could have been killed. So could you." "I'm used to it." "Well," I said, smiling despite the ache, "get unused to it." His chest rose and fell once, twice, then he pulled me in, forehead pressing against mine, breath ragged. "You're not running again," he said. "Wasn't planning to." "Good." We stayed there like that, wolves among wreckage, until the surviving council members started murmuring orders. Cassian was gone. His scent faded down the hall. He'd escaped. Of course he had. But this wasn't over. Not for me. Not for Kellan. Not for the pack. Because now we both knew what the hunters wanted. And we were done running. Chapter 7. By the time the sun began to rise, the city was miles behind us, and my hands still wouldn't stop shaking. The steering wheel of Kellan's truck was slick with rain and adrenaline. Every bump of the road reminded me that we were both still breathing. Barely, but breathing. I'd seen blood before. I'd caused some too. But watching Kellan tear through hunters to save me did something strange to my chest. Something I didn't have a name for yet. Something equal parts fear, fury, and devotion. He hadn't said a word since we left the council hall. His knuckles were white on the wheel, his jaw locked, his shirt torn where the silver bullets had grazed him. The silence between us was thick with all the things neither of us could afford to say. When we finally stopped, it was on the edge of a mountain lake, mist curling off the surface, pine trees standing like sentinels. "Where are we?" I asked softly. "Pack refuge," he said. "Hidden ward. No human scent for 10 miles. So, off-grid Airbnb for traumatized wolves." "Something like that." He got out before I could push further, rounding the truck to open my door for me. He did it like muscle memory. Automatic, protective, infuriating. I climbed out anyway, wincing at the stiffness in my side. Kellan caught the flinch instantly. "You're hurt. Just bruised. That's not just anything. You say that like I haven't been running for my life since your kind invented pack politics." "My kind?" His mouth quirked. "You're one of us, Savannah." I froze. "I'm not—" "You can keep pretending you're just an omega," he interrupted quietly, "but your wolf doesn't lie." That stopped me cold. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Yes," he said, stepping closer. "I do." He led me inside the cabin, a smaller, older one than his own. It was built for hiding, not living. The smell of moss and cedar filled the air. Moonlight bled through the curtains in silver stripes. Kellan found a first aid kit, set it on the table, and gestured for me to sit. His voice was softer now, but no less commanding. "Shirt off your shoulder," he said. "Buy me dinner first." "Savannah." "Fine." He cleaned the shallow cut near my collarbone where a hunter's bullet had grazed me. His hands were warm, steady, too careful. The heat between us was unbearable. "You should have stayed in the cabin," he murmured, "and you should have called for backup." "I didn't think I'd need it." "Because you thought I'd listen?" "Because I thought I could protect you." He said it like a confession. I looked up, met his gaze, and for the first time, he didn't look like an alpha. He looked like a man trying not to break. "Why me?" I asked. "You've had dozens of people under your protection before." "Not like you." "What makes me different?" He didn't answer. Instead, he took my wrist gently and turned it over. His thumb brushed over my pulse, tracing the faint shimmer beneath the skin. I'd thought it was just a vein catching the light. It wasn't. "There," he said quietly. "Your bond mark. It's faint, but it's real. I don't—" I pulled back instinctively. "No, that's not possible, it is. Your wolf recognized me before you did. That's impossible, Kellan. You can't decide we're bonded because your instinct's like my shampoo." "It's not my choice." "Then whose is it?" "Fate's," he said simply. I laughed, harsh and humorless. "Fate has a sick sense of humor." "She does," he said, not denying it. "But she doesn't make mistakes." We didn't talk for a while after that. The silence stretched, long and brittle, until the moon climbed higher, full and pale, spilling through the windows like truth. Something shifted in the air. My wolf stirred, restless. Kellan's head snapped up, nostrils flaring. "Your scent," he said under his breath. "Oh, not this again." "It's stronger now." His voice was tight. "The moon's pulling it out of you." "Pulling what out?" "Oh." I felt it then. The slow, rolling heat under my skin. My pulse sinking to something older than language. It wasn't lust exactly, it was gravity. Kellan's pupils dilated, his breath turning rough. He took one step back, then another. "You need to stay away from me," he said, voice low. "Why? Afraid of losing control? Afraid I won't want to stop." The air thickened, heavy with pheromones and unspoken need. My wolf pressed against the surface of my skin, curious, aching, alive. "Kellan," I whispered. "Don't," he warned. But I did. I closed the distance between us. My hand found his chest, the steady hammer of his heart beneath my palm. His breath hitched. His hand came up, stopping just short of my waist. "Savannah," he said again, softer this time, like the word itself was a prayer. "I'm not asking for forever," I said. "Just don't make me feel alone tonight." He exhaled, shaky. "You're never alone." And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was everything we'd been holding back: fear, fury, fate, colliding under the silver glow of the moon. The bond flared between us like fire under skin, hot and terrifyingly familiar. I felt his wolf reach for mine, not to claim, but to connect, testing, learning. I met him halfway. And somewhere in that electric, impossible moment, something shifted inside me, not metaphorical, literal. The mark on my wrist burned gold. My wolf surged forward, and for the first time I saw her, silver gray, fierce, beautiful. She looked at Kellan's wolf, massive, black as midnight, and didn't bow. She recognized him. So did I. When I opened my eyes again, the world was quiet. The air shimmered faintly where the bond had pulsed. Kellan was watching me, his chest rising fast, his expression torn between awe and fear. "That shouldn't have happened," he whispered. "No kidding. You're not just an omega, Savannah. You're— don't say it. An alpha-born hybrid." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your mother wasn't just part of the Omega program. She was one of the experiments. They tried to blend alpha resilience with omega fertility. It didn't work, except apparently it did." I sank onto the nearest chair. "So you're telling me I'm some kind of lab-made hybrid?" "No," he said softly. "I'm telling you you're the proof they failed to destroy." The mark on my wrist pulsed again, faint but steady. And beneath it, my unborn child kicked for the first time. Kellan froze, eyes widening. "They feel you," he said, wonder creeping into his tone. "Yeah," I whispered, hand over my belly. "They feel us." He dropped to one knee before I could react, his palm resting gently beside mine. His touch was reverent, hesitant, and heartbreakingly real. "I swear," he said quietly, "no one touches you. No one touches them. I'll burn the world before that happens." My throat tightened. "You don't have to." "I want to." The moonlight wrapped around us like a vow. And for the first time in months, I believed in safety. Not the kind that hides, the kind that fights. Chapter 8. Morning came with the scent of pine smoke and inevitability. The world outside the cabin looked almost peaceful. Mist clinging to the trees, the lake still as glass. You'd never guess we'd just rewritten the laws of fate under the moon. Kellan stood at the window, shirtless and silent, a storm in human form. The mark on his chest, an old faint brand that looked half claw, half sigil, caught the light. I wondered if he even realized it was glowing faintly. "You've been standing there for an hour," I said, pulling the quilt tighter around me. "Thinking. Always dangerous." "The council won't stay quiet," he said. "Cassian's gone, but they'll cover for him." "He's their blood. And the hunters?" He glanced back at me, eyes like lightning before it hits. "They won't stop." "Not until they get what they came for." I rubbed my wrist, tracing the faint bond mark that had appeared last night. It still pulsed sometimes, like an echo I couldn't silence. "You think they know about this?" I asked. "If they didn't before, they will soon." I exhaled. Perfect. Nothing like having a target tattooed on your soul. He almost smiled. "Almost. You make fear sound like sarcasm." "It's my coping mechanism." "That and denial." "Don't deny this," he said quietly, crossing the room toward me. "Not what happened. Not what you are." I looked up at him, heart trying to decide between running and melting. "And what am I, exactly?" "The future they tried to erase." We didn't have time for more philosophy. By mid-morning, Kellan's phone buzzed, one of the few still connected to pack lines. His expression darkened as he read the message. "They found the council safe house," he said. "It's burning." "Cassian?" "No," he said grimly. "Worse? Humans. Hunters. They hit it before dawn. A chill ran through me." "Then it's starting, isn't it?" "The war you warned me about, it's already started." He grabbed his rifle, checked the magazine, and started tossing supplies into a duffel, Ammo, maps, a silver dagger etched with runes that hummed faintly. "We'll move before nightfall," he said. "They'll track the truck first. We'll take the ridge path to the old tunnels. I thought you said no one knew about those." I lied. "Fair. Pack will meet us there. If Cassian's still aligned with the hunters, he'll be coming from the North Pass." "Then we go south," he paused. "You're thinking tactically now." "I've been hunted for months, Kellan." "You pick things up." We packed fast. Every minute felt stolen. But as I zipped my bag, something sharp caught my eye. An envelope tucked beneath Kellan's jacket on the table. The same expensive stationery as the one that had outed Cassian's betrayal. I opened it before I could stop myself. Inside was a single page, blood-stained at the corner. The handwriting was familiar, my mother's. "If you're reading this, they've found the child. Protect him. His blood carries the Alpha's fire. The hunters will think it's power. They're wrong. It's judgment." I froze. "Kellan, what is this?" He turned, saw the page, and went still. "Where did you get that?" "It was under your jacket." He swallowed hard. "I kept it." "I didn't know it was hers." "Alpha's fire. What does that mean?" He hesitated too long. "Kellan, it means your child isn't just a hybrid," he said finally. "They're carrying something my family tried to bury generations ago." The first Blackwell Alpha made a blood pact with the moon itself to protect the balance between humans and wolves. His descendants were born with what we call the fire mark. Power that only wakes when the world tilts toward extinction. "Extinction," I repeated flatly. "Well, that's cheerful. It's dormant. Always dormant. Until now, until me. Until both of us," he said. The bond awakened it. I pressed a trembling hand to my stomach. "So what? You're saying our kid's basically a magical time bomb?" "I'm saying they're the key. And the hunters know it." Before I could reply, a scent hit the air, sharp, metallic, wrong. Kellan's head snapped toward the window. "They're here." "How?" "They must have tracked the blood." He grabbed his rifle, chambered around. "Stay behind me." A shadow moved between the trees. Then another, then 3 more. The hunters fanned out, wearing body armor laced with silver, and leading them, Cassian, of course. He looked almost relaxed as he stepped into the clearing, gun slung over his shoulder, smile sharp as glass. "Alpha Blackwell," he called. "You've been busy." Kellan raised his rifle. "You've been suicidal." "I prefer ambitious." Cassian's gaze shifted to me. "You've caused quite a stir, little hybrid. Do you have any idea how much your unborn fetches on the market?" "Less than your dignity, apparently." He grinned. "Still charming." Kellan stepped forward, muscles coiled. "You won't touch her." "She's not yours to protect anymore," Cassian said. "Council's disbanded. New order now, one that doesn't waste resources on sentimental attachments." "You mean one that sells children? Call it evolution." The wind shifted. My wolf surged. I could feel Kellan's fury like heat against my skin. Cassian lifted his gun, casual. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Step aside, and I'll let you live." Kellan's voice dropped to a growl. "You already tried that once." He fired. The bullet hit Cassian's shoulder, sending him staggering back. But the hunters were faster. Gunfire split the air, the cabin erupting into chaos. Kellan grabbed my hand and yanked me behind the woodpile, returning fire with inhuman precision. Splinters flew. One of the hunters dropped. Another took his place. "There's too many," I shouted. "We just need a distraction," he said. "I can make one," I said before I could think better of it. "What? No, Savannah." But it was already happening. My wolf surged forward, burning through me, skin humming with power I didn't recognize. The mark on my wrist glowed brighter. Then my vision exploded into white light. I didn't shift. I radiated. Silver fire burst from the ground around us, roaring like wind and flame combined. The hunters screamed as their weapons melted, their silver rounds turning molten. Cassian stumbled backward, eyes wide. What did you— Judgment, I whispered, remembering the letter. The fire coiled, then vanished, leaving the ground scorched and silent. When the smoke cleared, the hunters were gone, fled, or turned to ash. Kellan stood frozen, staring at me like I'd rewritten the sky. "Savannah," he breathed. "You just— Yeah," I said faintly, legs shaking. "That happened." He caught me before I hit the ground, lowering me gently. My vision swam. "Breathe," he said. "You're okay." "No," I whispered. "I'm not. But I think we just sent a message. To who? To everyone who ever thought Omegas were prey." We didn't sleep that night. Kellan kept watch while I lay by the fire, every muscle trembling. The air smelled like rain on ash. When I finally looked up at him, he wasn't watching the window anymore. He was watching me. "You burned for them," he said softly. "For all of us." "Don't make it sound poetic," I murmured. "It's just survival with extra flair." "Whatever it is," he said. "It's ours now." He leaned in, forehead resting against mine, voice low and raw. "Fire in the blood, moon in the bones. We'll learn to wield it, Savannah." Together, I echoed. And for the first time in my life, the word didn't sound like a risk. It sounded like a promise. Chapter 9. The fire burned down to embers by dawn. I sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket, staring at the lake that had gone mirror still again. The mist was lifting, soft and golden, pretending the world wasn't still smoking from what I'd done. Kellan hadn't slept. He was cleaning weapons he didn't need anymore, probably just to keep from pacing a hole through the floor. The quiet between us wasn't anger. It was aftermath. Every now and then he looked at me like he couldn't decide whether to scold me or thank me. "You know," I said finally, "normal couples just argue about dishes. We're not normal." "Good thing, or we'd be terrible at it." He gave a rough, tired laugh, his first in hours. "You always do that." "What?" "Find the joke in the wreckage. Someone has to sweep it." His eyes softened, then turned toward the tree line. "They'll come again." Cassian's not dead. Great. I was worried the apocalypse would get boring. He won't stop until he finishes what he started. "Then we finish him first," I said simply. Kellan's gaze sharpened. "You're not going anywhere near him." "I literally have fire powers now, Kellan." "You can't bubble wrap me forever. You nearly collapsed last time. Which means I need practice, not protection." "You're carrying a child," I met his eyes. "And they're carrying a legacy. One I didn't ask for, but one I refuse to hand over." The argument died there, hanging heavy between us. Then something shifted. An instinctive primal awareness. The air turned metallic. My wolf's ears went up. "They're close," Kellan said, already moving. "Cassian? And his new friends." We didn't have to wait long. 5 vehicles rolled into the clearing like the last act of a bad movie. Hunters again, but this time with wolves in their ranks. Rogues wearing council insignia. Cassian stepped out first, shoulder bandaged, smile poisonous. "Took you long enough to recover," I called. "I'm flattered you missed me." He looked past me to Kellan. "You could have ruled beside me, Blackwell." "Instead, you picked her." Kellan's voice was ice. "I didn't pick her." Fate did, always hiding behind that word. Cassian's smile thinned. "Funny thing about fate, it burns too." He raised a device, a small vial glowing red at the base. I felt it before I understood it. The same heat, the same pulse that had surged through me last night. "Moonlight essence," I realized. "You stole it." "Borrowed," he corrected. "Your fire woke it up. Now let's see how well you survive it." He crushed the vial against the ground. The air screamed. The forest ignited. Not with flame, but with light. A blinding surge of moonfire shot outward in a ring, scorching bark and earth alike. I stumbled back, clutching my stomach as pain flared through me, echoing, answering. "Savannah!" Kellan caught me before I fell. "I'm fine," I gasped. "It's just—" My words broke off as light poured from my palms, brighter than before, hot and alive. Cassian blinked, realization dawning too late. "She's channeling it," he whispered. "No," Kellan said grimly. "She's claiming it." The bond between us snapped taut, invisible but powerful. I could feel Kellan's heartbeat syncing with mine, his wolf's growl vibrating through the ground. "You don't have to fight," he said under his breath. "You just have to be." I didn't fully understand what he meant, until I did. The power wasn't something I controlled. It was something I accepted. I opened myself to it. To the mark, to the bond, to the bloodline that had built and broken me. The fire didn't consume this time. It transformed. It threaded through my veins like gold, steady and purposeful. When I looked at Cassian, I wasn't afraid. "You talk about evolution," I said quietly. "Let's see if you can keep up." The light flared outward. Not heat, not pain, just force. Hunters dropped their weapons. The rogue wolves fell to their knees, howling, not in agony but surrender. Cassian stumbled back, shielding his eyes. "What are you?" "Exactly what you created," I said, "and everything you feared." The explosion of power ended as suddenly as it began. Smoke and silence replaced light. When the dust cleared, the hunters were gone, fled or scattered, and Cassian lay unconscious, pinned under a fallen branch that glowed faintly with moonfire residue. Kellan stood at my side, chest heaving, expression caught between pride and awe. "You just ended a war," he said softly. I laughed, shaky. "You say that like it's over." "It is, for now." We both looked down at Cassian. Kellan's jaw tightened. "He'll live." "But the council will exile him for treason. Good. Let him spend eternity thinking about the woman who ruined his plans with pregnancy glow." Kellan blinked, then actually smiled. "You're unbelievable." "Occupational hazard." He took a slow step closer, then another. The air between us hummed, thick with aftershock and something deeper. "You said once you didn't belong to anyone," he murmured. "I still don't." "Then let me belong to you." My throat went tight. "That's not how bonds work." "It's how we make them work." He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. His thumb lingered against my jaw. "You changed everything, Savannah Quinn. Even the rules. Rules are overrated." "Agreed." He kissed me then, not with the desperation of before, but with the quiet certainty of survival. It tasted like smoke, rain, and something I hadn't dared hope for in a long time. Home. When we finally pulled apart, the lake reflected us. Two figures standing in a clearing, still glowing faintly with moonlight. Kellan rested his forehead against mine. "The world's going to come looking," he said. "Let them," I murmured. "They'll find nothing but ashes." "What happens now?" "Now?" I smiled faintly. "We rebuild, we train, we raise hell, and if fate's still watching, she'll have a show." He laughed softly, the sound wrapping around me like warmth. Later, when the moon rose again, I stood at the edge of the lake. The reflection shimmered, and for a heartbeat, I saw 3 figures instead of 2, me, Kellan, and a small flicker of light between us. Our child, fire in the blood, moon in the bones, legacy in the heartbeat. I whispered to the stillness, "We're not running anymore." The wind shifted. Somewhere deep in the woods, a wolf howled, low, fierce, and free. And for the first time, my wolf howled back. Epilogue. The mountains healed faster than we did. By spring, the scorched earth had greened again, hiding the scars beneath new grass and wildflowers. The cabin by the lake still smelled faintly of ash and rain, but it felt different now, like it had been waiting for us all along. Kellan called it home. I called it enough. The hunters were gone, at least the organized kind. Cassian had vanished into the wind after the council disbanded. Kellan thought he was hiding, licking his wounds. I thought he was plotting. Either way, I'd stopped dreaming about his face. Now I dreamed about small fingers curling around mine and silver eyes blinking open for the first time. Our daughter arrived under a blood moon. I'd always thought stories exaggerated that kind of thing. The glowing light, the silence before the first cry. But it was all real. The night the sky burned red, my wolf whispered, "Now." Kellan was a wreck. The man who'd faced down armed hunters and corrupt alphas turned pale at the word contractions. "You're sure it's—" "Yes, Kellan." I gritted my teeth. "It's happening." "Shouldn't we call the healer?" "She's an hour away." "I can run." "Sit down before I bite you." He obeyed instantly, which almost made me laugh. Almost. By the time the moon reached its peak, the air shimmered again with that familiar golden light. It wasn't violent this time. It was gentle, protective. When our daughter took her first breath, the wind itself seemed to still in reverence. She had his storm-gray eyes, my stubborn mouth. And when she yawned, a faint shimmer appeared beneath her skin. The same fire that had once terrified me now burning quiet and steady. "She's—" Kellan whispered, unable to finish. "Perfect," I said softly. He nodded, jaw trembling, tears he didn't bother to hide catching the firelight. "What do we name her?" I looked out the window where the lake reflected the blood moon's glow. "Ember," I said, "because she's what's left after everything burns, and what still shines." He smiled. "Ember Blackwell." "She'll have both names," I said firmly. "Quinn, too. I won't have her forgetting where she came from." "Agreed." He brushed a kiss across my temple. "Savannah Quinn, breaker of laws, rebuilder of worlds. Flatterer. Truth-teller." A month later, the pack gathered for the first time since the war. Word had spread fast. About the Council's fall, about Cassian's betrayal, about the Alpha who'd chosen an Omega hybrid and lived to tell the tale. They came to see if the rumors were true. They left kneeling before the truth. Kellan stepped down as Council Alpha that night. Not because he was weak, because he'd finally learned strength wasn't in dominance, but in choice. He passed the title to one of the younger wolves, a beta with more sense than pride. "You're serious?" I'd whispered. "You don't rebuild from the same bricks," he said simply. "You start over." He looked at me then, holding Ember in his arms, and smiled that rare, quiet smile that made my chest ache. We already did. Sometimes I still wake before dawn, when the mist rolls low over the lake. I sit on the porch with Ember sleeping against my chest, and watch Kellan chopping wood by the shore. His scars are lighter now, his laughter louder. He doesn't pace anymore. He builds. A pack that listens instead of rules. A home that welcomes strays instead of fearing them. A family that began in fire and chose peace anyway. I still have nightmares sometimes. But when I do, Kellan's scent grounds me, and Ember's heartbeat anchors me to something fierce and unbreakable. The hunters called us abominations. The council called us mistakes. But under the moonlight, I call us free. One night, as the moon turned full again, I caught my reflection in the lake. Wolf eyes staring back, calm and steady. I smiled. "You found me," I whispered to the ghost of that frightened girl who once broke into a stranger's cabin. Kellan's voice came from behind me, warm and teasing. "Technically, I found you." I turned, smiling. "Technically, your door was emotionally open." He laughed, kissed my forehead, and wrapped his arms around me. Ember babbled between us, reaching for the moon. "She's going to be stronger than both of us," he said. "Obviously, she's ours. Think fate's done with us?" I looked up at the sky, where the moonlight rippled across the lake like a heartbeat. Not a chance. Because somewhere out there, in the distance between prophecy and peace, new wolves were rising. The kind born not from bloodlines or power, but from choice. And maybe, just maybe, that was what the moon had wanted all along. If you believe some stories don't end, they evolve. then you already know. This isn't the end. It's just the next dawn.